Yo, 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 what's up, y'all? You are listening to the Lazarus Affect podcast, and I am your host, Lazarus Ross. Let's grow. Let's go. Aww. Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? It's your boy Laz, and we are back with another episode of the Lazarus Affect podcast, and this time I have a wonderful friend, Mandy Witters, as a guest. What up, Mandy? How you doing?
I'm feeling a little tired, but I'm excited for our podcast.
Let's go. So, Mandy, right now we are at the Condor Approach Live here in Austin recording this podcast.
Woo, woo.
Mandy is a fellow master Condor coach, and Mandy facilitates
mushroom ceremonies, Bufo ceremonies, transformational experiences with breathwork.
Boom. Perfect timing. So Mandy is going to share her journey today. And back in March, Mandy facilitated my first Bufo journey. And I'll tell you what, my experience, that is a straight to God experience. So Mandy, how did you get into this space? What called you to it?
Excellent question, Laz. Well, first off, I've been in the CBD space since late 2014. Mm-hmm. My dad had a pretty telling experience at the local VA hospital. He's a vet, and long story short, it led him on a research path to see that CBD was something that I might be interested in selling. Yeah. He noticed that I did not like working for him in toys, and he was like, hey, if you want to start your own business, I'd love to help you out with that. So I started a CBD business in late 2014 called Healthy Hemp. Ultimately, that led me towards seeing functional mushrooms, and then starting to look at magic mushrooms. And through different connections in that atmosphere, I slowly but surely found myself seeking medicine. 2018 was the best year of my CBD business. 2019, it was clear that that was not going to be a repeat. And by 2020, I'm like, okay, I need to have a conversation with God, because my passion, my creativity, my drive for this business is just gone. So I took my first psychedelic in May 2020. It was mushrooms. Took 3 grams and, quote, as I would say, nothing happened. And I'm like, I didn't talk to God, didn't see walls melt, didn't hear anything. And I'm just like waiting and waiting. And my friend who was watching me was like, oh yeah, something should have been happening by now. I guess they don't work for you. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks. So over the course of the next year and a half, I tried varying levels of mushrooms and acid, upwards of 5 grams of mushrooms and 7 tabs of acid. And I'm like, why is this not working? So ultimately, my gift to myself for my 30th birthday was going to be ayahuasca, but due to the pandemic, I wasn't able to do that until September 21, where I finally had my first experience. And the way that they did that retreat is it was a 7-day retreat. Every other day was ayahuasca. The last day of ayahuasca, that morning, we did Bufo. Bufo put me in touch with my shadow like that. It was instant. I'm like, holy crap, I thought I was this love light child, and here's my darkness. And that's when I first really understood and embodied the concept of the shadow. I had gone to school for political science with a education background and a minor in psychology, so I had a very good foundation of shadow work in Carl Jung and Freud, but until you feel your shadow, it does not compute. So yeah, my shadow and I said hello through Bufo.
So you have a tolerance, natural tolerance built.
I have a high constitution, as someone said here.
A high constitution. Okay. So you had that experience with Bufo. Mm-hmm. What got you into serving medicine?
Sure. So for September 21 was my first real psychedelic experience where I had something happen. And for the next 6 months, I just wandered aimlessly. I'm like, what do I do with this information? And I picked a little bit here and read a little bit there, but ultimately I met a person through a local plant medicine church that became a life coach for me for a couple months. And within 2 weeks, I feel like I began integrating my experience. So ultimately, he inspired me to start seeking out integration coaching so that I could start doing this for others. I amassed skill set over those 6 months, was inspired by him to seek more like formal training. And as I started going down the Condor path, my first time was a year ago in September, I started realizing the coaching component, while awesome and getting to see that transformation, I love being in space. I love seeing people go from not having experienced medicine to being in that very vulnerable state. And my belief is like, who has the best ability to make sure that they're safe? Me. So that inspiration of keeping them safe, physically safe, while they are off journeying into the unknown with their conscience is just, it's inspiring for me. So that inspiration is what really has led me to offer medicine and be their guide when they're in that space.
Okay, so let's talk about, you said, how can people help people be safe? Mm-hmm. You said who was the best for that, and you pointed at yourself and said me. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about safety for a moment. What does that mean to you in space?
Absolutely. So when it comes to Bufo, I'll use your experience to help kind of solidify some of this. Yeah. First off, knowing that I'm going to make mistakes along the way, I give myself grace there, but making my client aware of how close or how far in this path I really am. I'm very new to serving medicine, so letting them know, hey, this is a learning curve for both of us, but my goal is to, for Bufo, I call it the ABCs of Bufo. Your airway needs to be unblocked. Your breathing needs to remain relatively consistent. So if there's like a couple of seconds between breaths, that's totally fine. But if we're going like beyond 45 seconds to a minute between like me seeing your belly rise and fall, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting involved there. Yep. And then coloration. So the color of your fingernails, the color of your lips, making sure that we're not having anything turn blue.
Right.
Assuming any of those things happen, I'm trained in CPR, I'm trained in first aid. Making sure that those things are being administered properly is going to be absolutely key. Shout out to Ta for inspiring me to do that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have. So safety is first off just keeping an inventory of their physical safety. The next thing is going to be the environment. We always hear set and setting is very important. The setting is going to be crucial. So making sure that if they are on a bed like you were, having pillows should they fall off.
Like I do.
Yeah. The thing that you taught me about the space that I'm in, I had like maybe 2 feet between the wall and the couch, and Laz had the perfect momentum to find his way wiggled in between that space. So now I know, take my couch, put it against the wall so that the couch is a complete wall. So if they start to roll, they're rolling into the back of the couch and not potentially the corner of my TV stand. So physical safety is looking out for all of the things that could be potential hazards. Oftentimes people will see you doing medicine out in outdoor spaces, making sure you have multiple people should that person decide to run, that they're able to catch you. Another component would be if I being a female, I'm a smaller body than you, definitely lacking in strength compared to you. So having someone that's stronger there, a masculine presence, is also very useful energetically as well as for physical safety for myself and my client. So since your time, I've now added a person in to help facilitate with me should I need that extra component.
Yeah,
so those are some
sense.
elements for safety that I definitely consider. And then just going into the ceremony itself, if you're on any type of medicines that take 2 weeks to get in or out of your system, like SSRIs, SNRIs, other mood stabilizers, that's going to be something that you and your doctor are going to need to discuss getting off of before you're doing certain kinds of medicine.
Right.
Bright side, though, I was starting to see some research coming out that there was a concern of doing SSRIs with like while you're on mushrooms, or doing mushrooms while you're on SSRIs, and they're starting to find that those studies are no longer valid, which I think is beautiful and gives a lot of people with depression hope.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I heard Cole talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So for those listening that have no clue, they've never heard of Bufo before, they heard you talking about people rolling around, possibly running, another person needing to be present, like maybe their mind is going like, what in the hell are they talking about? How could this be medicine? Go into help people understand like what this does.
Absolutely. So first thing that I do is I coach people on a framework of their nervous system, of what energy moving through the body is like, and then a technique with breath work to ground yourself. Because if we can get you feeling, as Paul Mark likes to say, whelmed instead of under or overwhelmed, that's my goal in the medicine space. When you get to a point where you're having those kind of moments where unsafety might happen. So first of all, creating the foundation before you go into medicine space. Hey, these are the expectations. Should XYZ happen, these are the responses that I'm going to have. One of the things that I do then is tell people, hey, you might have an array of experiences happen. You might have a deeply, deeply internal experience where you just lay back and you're like, peace, love, and light, and you're just feeling the oneness. You might have an experience where you get up and run. I had a friend that did medicine, and he, believing that he might have had like a sexual molestation issue when he was a child, had to like grab into the darkness of his bottom to see if he can find what was there. And ultimately, those experiences sound really scary to people, but the thing that you have to remember is your subconscious is exactly that. You don't know what's there until you do the medicine. So my goal is to help you feel safe and seen and accepted for whatever comes up. So prefacing, hey, these might come up. I do not judge you. I am here to hold space for you. And when that experience is over, we're going to talk about it so that you can feel safe in that experience. We want to eliminate shame, guilt, embarrassment, judgment. Take away the story and just look at it for the objectivity that it is.
So I'm curious, with things like that, you mentioned the subconscious is, call it that. We don't know what's there until we either do the medicine or we've been doing some intentional shadow work is the best word that we could use for most people to know what we're talking about. In your experience, have you had people, when you talk to people and they're doing these master teachers from animals and plants
or fungi,
yeah, it's just sometimes
I'm just a fun guy, man.
It's crazy because it's not a plant, right? So do you in your experience, have people who do shadow work before they ever do medicine, is it an easier time in general?
So yes and no. Yes, because if you have a general understanding of where your experience has been or what it has been in the past, if you know that you've had abuse in your history. I do a really thorough intake, again, inspired by Ta's intake. It's like 130 questions where we talk about your history with your parents, with your siblings, with other authority figures in your life. What is your relationship to food, sleep, water? What is your relationship to people? And really trying to like dig up all of the muck at the bottom of the soup.
Yeah, stir it up.
Yeah, the bottom of the soup like container. Then I find that yes, it's likely to be easier. The challenge is though, if you don't know what you don't know, something unexpected can still come out. So like for example, the friend that I had that had a sexual abuse situation, he did not have any clue going into that experience that he might have been molested as a child. His experience revealed that memory to him, which caused him to go into a very physical reenactment of that experience. So yes, he could have done a ton of shadow work beforehand, but if you don't know what you don't know, stuff could still pop up. And as a guide, facilitator, space holder, whatever you want to call the person that's administering this medicine to you, like, they need to be prepared for anything, even if the intake was as thorough as it could be.
Okay, cool. What would you suggest to someone who's considering doing any of these things? Who's never, they're curious, they've never done it before, they're open to the possibility, but they may be experiencing some sort of fear, or possibly fear from, hey, maybe will I go to heaven if I do this stuff? You know, someone who's religious. Hey, you know, am I going to be okay? Am I going to die? Like, what would you suggest for people who may be having those kind of thoughts?
Sure. So the first thing that I'm going to recommend is the Condor Journal, honestly, because people often think that the medicine is the work when in reality the work comes after the medicine is done. So if you're not willing to start creating the habits necessary to do the work after the medicine, then you're not even ready to do medicine. So, cold plunge.
Perfect timing.
Next, if people are having fear in terms of religion, I will say that I'm likely not going to be the best person to work with. I might send them off to David so that they can work with some religious repression stuff with him. But if it's a mild fear and something that we don't need to go into deep programming, then it's just a conversation of what has you scared about that, and how do we talk to your subconscious in a way that alleviates some of that fear. And that's going to be different person to person based on where that repression or challenge is coming from. In terms of fear of the unknown, the question that I'll offer them is something along the lines of is the question you have worth giving up everything for? And if the answer is no, then hey, medicine might not be for you. But if you're willing to gamble at all, whatever it all is, because that's going to be dependent on the person, to find the answer that you seek to get you to the next state of expansion, transformation, or growth, then medicine might be for you. I often use my own example of why I went to medicine to be the motivator. It's when you've done everything you can and you think that you've run out of options, medicine might be the next option. You might get a little friction around that because I don't want people to think it's their last hope. It's not in oh my God, if this doesn't work, I'm going to end it. It's no, I've tried everything, or I've tried most of the things, and here's all the reasons why they didn't work. And this is where I would use some sort of journaling process, maybe not the Condor Journal, to have them tease apart, why did these things not work, and why do you believe medicine will work? Because a challenge that I have run into myself, but with people that are in the growth mindset space, is they just keep jumping around modalities, and they have to realize pick one. Any of them can work. You just got to do the work, and you're not doing the work. So if you can't tell me why these things didn't work with true teasing apart and getting to the depth of oh, this modality just wasn't for me because of these reasons, medicine's probably going to have the same outcome of yeah, I did it and it didn't work for me. It's because you didn't do the work.
Right. Cool. So thank you, Mandy. How do people get in contact with you?
Sure. The easiest way is going to be Instagram. I'm Mandy Witters on there, MandyWitters. You can also email me at mandy.witters@gmail.com. I give you a link, and then we jump on. Right now I have it as a 2-hour free call where we just do an inventory. What are you trying to do with the medicine? Are our values in alignment? Am I a good fit for you? Are you a good fit for me? I often will use I'm a little crass when I say it, but I'm if your goal is to kill babies, I'm not about that, so we would not be a good fit. But if your goal is personal growth, personal discovery, and transformation, then we are likely in alignment, and I already want to help you.
Yep.
So, yeah, reach out to me, DM me for the link to the free consultation, and we'll dive deep on where you've been, where you want to go, and how can I help you.
Well, I'll make sure that information is in the description of the podcast episode, so y'all who want to reach out to Mandy can do that. Mandy, I appreciate you, fam. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for asking me some difficult questions and letting me flow with you.
You know what's up. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all listening. Catch y'all on the next one. Peace. I appreciate you coming through and listening to the podcast. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. And if you know somebody else this podcast can help, share it with them. Let's go. Let's grow. Aua.